All right. Um, Today, I just want to bring up a few examples, some obvious, some not so obvious of the way the state and those in power in the cathedral, how they think that only they can take care of business and accomplish things, and that us serfs shouldn't. We're not qualified. Don't worry. Big Daddy government got you. There's just a few examples of that. Some obvious, some maybe not so obvious. Just a couple. Um, let's talk about public, government schools, um, teachers associations, administrations, the schools themselves, the Department of Education. Uh, they've always been against charter schools, school choice, and homeschooling. If there's anything that's good that's come out of this whole coof crap from the last 18 24 months, it's been the huge uptick in homeschooling. And I think they call them pods, where communities are actually coming together and in small neighborhoods, and they gather the kids together in somebody's living room, maybe 5, maybe 20, and parents are teaching their own kids. And despite the fact that government teachers and their ilk throw a monkey wrench and try to throw up as many roadblocks as possible with regulations, and the government loves regulations, trying to hinder homeschooling, because, like I said, the government doesn't. The government wants to almost said educate. They gave up educating kids years ago. They want to raise your kids and control your kids. Parents, don't let them. Example one. Yeah, about from what was that, 4 to 6 weeks ago, in the debacle of an evacuation of Afghanistan. See, an evac almost sounds too legitimate. It was the surrender of Afghanistan, Kabul airport in particular, where multiple private companies and charities and NGOs spent their own money and got their own planes and their own pilots, and were trying to get people out of there, out of harm's way. And what's funny is I looked into it just a bit, read a few articles, and some experts talking about a large military operations like this are almost always run by the Department of Defense via the military, of course. No, this was headed up by the State Department. Don't know why, because they did a shitty job of it. It got to the point to where some charities weren't allowed to board their passengers, board their people they were trying to get out of harm's way, because they had filled out the wrong forms. These are human beings in danger, just trying to get them out. And by the way, there's still hundreds of people in Afghanistan trying to get back to the States, out of harm's way. Notice nobody's talking about that anymore, yet they're still stuck over there. That's how efficient the government is, because the government can do things, and they don't want private industry. They don't want the individual. They don't want free thinkers, charities, making them look bad. Let's talk about. Now, this one isn't very obvious. At least it wasn't to me at first. Let's talk about the term first responder. I believe it was the term coined back in the late 70s during the Carter administration, referring to policemen and firemen and paramedics and nurses and medical staff during an event, an emergency, some type of disaster. These are the first responders. No. If there's a tornado that's ripping through my town, I'm responding to it first by getting my family to low ground. If there's somebody trying to kick down my door, I'm the first responder, making sure he doesn't get a foot inside my doorway. And yes, the 911 will be called, but it takes however long it takes for them to get here. And 9 times out of 10, if not 99 times out of 100, it's far too late. We are the first responders, and I think that lines up well with what I'm trying to drive at here, that it's the state agents and government that should do things, that can do things better, if not the only people that can do things, and not us serfs. And of course that dovetails right into gun ownership, where you have celebrities and politicians and athletes and filthy rich people that go screeching at the top of their lungs about gun violence and assault rifles and trying to disarm the general public, while they have a fully armed security staff standing behind them while they're at a mic screaming about how evil the Second Amendment is, because only they know how to do things and we do not. The last 12 to 18, maybe even 24 months now, when lockdowns were happening all too often, and some still are, ridiculously enough, big box stores stayed open, but the mom and pop drugstore up the street on the corner, little corner stores, had to close because they were not essential, because the lobbyists and those in power know what they're doing, and the little guy doesn't, according to them. I did homeschooling, and like I said, this all goes on to the bigger narrative, authoritarianism versus individualism, that they can get stuff done, and don't you worry about it. You keep playing your little games and watching your Netflix, bread and circuses. Big Daddy Government got this. Don't worry. Go back to sleep. And on a brighter note, I have to bring up the University of Austin at Texas, which is a brand new university. I'll let you guess where it is. It's in Austin. It's in Texas. I'm proud of my old home state. Peter Boghossian, Barry Weiss, a slew of very smart, very independent, liberty-minded people. Not all on the left or the right. They run the gamut of political views and ideologies. They've come together, put their money where their mouth is, and are opening up a legitimate, liberal, open-minded place of higher education. The weird folk hippies in Austin are gonna love them. Anyway, I'm glad to say that they're stepping up. We need more pushback with all this. I won't rant much longer, because it's a well-established fact that all this cultural Marxism and the culture war and all the intersectionality and race essentialism and all this CRT crap all came from universities and colleges. And coast to coast, 80-90% of all the colleges now are infected with this woke religion. And it's time to have at least one little bastion of independence. And hopefully that will spread. That said, I'm just going to finish up by saying, let's go Brandon. So there.